people, and more so as we are approaching the election year, which comes next year, 2026. In studio this morning, I'm privileged to be joined by Acting President of the Patriotic Front Party, who is also former Justice Minister, Honorable Lubinda. Honorable, good morning and welcome to the Saka.
Good morning, Madam Kaunda, and good morning, listeners. Thank you very much for having me on your program. It's been a while since I was last on Lusaka Radio. It's nice to be back.
We're actually honored to have your presence this morning. Now, before we dive into national matters, we know that currently making headlines in Zambia is the issue of the constitutional amendment and also the economic situation. But before we get into that, let's start with talking about the Patriotic Front Party. Recently, we hosted one of the faction leader, who is also leader of the opposition in Parliament, Honorable Robert Chavinga, who mentioned or disclosed to the nation that the Patriotic Front come 2026 will not be participating in the general election, especially on the presidential level. So with the factions that exist and knowing the fact that next year is an election period, how are you working towards, firstly, just maintaining unity within your party?
We are united. Excuse me. We are united in the Patriotic Front. And the Patriotic Front that Chavinga is talking about is not the Patriotic Front that belongs to the members of the Patriotic Front. That is the Patriotic Front that belongs to Hakainde Hichilema, the one that Hakainde Hichilema grabbed from us when he staged a coup through Miles Sampa on the 24th of October 2023. That is the PF that Chavinga is speaking about. When you talk about the Patriotic Front that belongs to the structures where people are, that party is still intact, and come 2026, it shall participate in elections. And you are aware of the fact that we have since formed an alliance with other political parties called the Tonse Alliance. So in 2026, all those political parties that are under the Tonse Alliance shall choose one special purpose vehicle to use to contest elections in 2026.
But Honorable, when you look at the registrar of societies and the names that appear there, Honorable Chavinga is one of the names that is appearing there. So then, how do you say the Patriotic Front of Honorable Chavinga is not recognized?
Because that is the coup that I was speaking about. And by the way, there's been a third coup. First, it was the coup staged by Hakainde Hichilema using Miles Sampa. After that, there was another coup by Hakainde Hichilema against Miles Sampa, where he used Robert Chavinga. And now, recently, the court decided that the second coup was illegal, and they handed the party back to Miles Sampa. So as far as I'm concerned, the name that is at Registrar of Societies is Miles Sampa. And I want to make it clear that a political party does not necessarily exist because of the Registrar of Society. No, especially not in a country of lawlessness such as Zambia, where people can just go without following the due process. They change the names of office bearers of an institution. Recently, you would notice that even UNIP suffered the same fate. Bishop Mwamba was removed from the Registrar of Societies files as being president of UNIP, and somebody else was put in there. Now, in a country of lawlessness of that nature, you don't depend on what the Registrar of Society tells you. You depend on what the people say. And the people are solidly behind the Patriotic Front, the official Patriotic Front, which is led by Edgar Chagwa Lungu. That is the Patriotic Front that will contest elections through the Tonse Alliance in 2026. And I have no problems to hear anyone, Patriotic Front, the Patriotic Front that exists in their minds, the Patriotic Front at the Registrar of Society will not take part in the elections. I have no problem with that, for as long as I know that the real Patriotic Front and the leadership of the Patriotic Front have decided that they're going to contest elections in 2026 under the Tonse Alliance. As I speak now, you know that the Patriotic Front had a candidate in Petauke, and we used a special purpose vehicle the National Congress Party, and we won the elections. We took part in the elections in Pambashe under the Tonse Alliance, and we had chosen a special purpose vehicle. In Pambashe, we chose FDD. And the candidate there is a PF member, but we're using a special purpose vehicle called the NCP. We had a candidate also for Kala Ward in Kawambwa until the shenanigans of UPND and their government, where they abducted our person and forced him to retire from politics. And we're waiting now to see whether, for the first time, Zalomis will abide by the law to do what is provided for in the Constitution, to nullify those nominations and start afresh.
I think listeners would like to understand, Honorable. You say on one end, the Patriotic Front, to which you belong, that is the official party. And on the other end, you're telling us that the Patriotic Front is participating in elections, but on the Tonse Alliance. It's kind of confusing. Tonse Patriotic Front.
It shouldn't confuse you. It shouldn't confuse you. Any political party is at liberty to join other parties in an alliance. The UPND, for instance, since they're the ones who are causing all these problems, they can therefore be cited as an example. They formed what they refer to as the UPND Alliance. And you heard one Nevas Mumba yesterday speaking on behalf of the UPND. That does not mean that MMD does not exist. It simply means that MMD have gone into partnership with UPND. And the PF has also gone into partnership with all the other political parties under the Tonse arrangement. Now, because of the mismanagement and misrule of Hakainde Hichilema, unfortunately, they would not accept any nomination forms that are signed by Edgar Chagwa Lungu and our General Secretary, Raphael Nakachinda. Because of that, we have decided we're not going to deny Zambians the opportunity for them to choose a leader that they want. We have decided that we use a special purpose vehicle. And as the case is now in Nyimba, the special purpose vehicle is NCP. So this mustn't surprise you at all. We are aware of the fact that formally, officially, at the Registrar of Societies, our names were removed illegally. They were removed illegally by UPND. And because of that, we cannot use the name PF to field any candidate. And we cannot continue to allow that Hakainde's dictatorial tendency must affect us and must affect the Zambian people. The people of Zambia know who the PF are. They know that we are the PF. And this is the reason why, even when we campaign, we use PF regalia, we use T-shirts bearing the name Patriotic Front and bearing the image of Edgar Chagwa Lungu, and people vote for us.
What is the interest of the UPND in your party issues? Because you keep making reference to them as the reason to why your names were removed, and also that it's the UPND allegedly that sponsored the faction, for example.
This is not.
So what do you think is their interest in
Madam,
that?
this is not an allegation at all. Don't make the listeners think that I'm just making wild allegations. This is not an allegation. This is a proven fact. Hakainde Hichilema has his footprints and his fingerprints everywhere in that coup. Tell me if you, madam, at your age, you've ever heard of any political party allowed to hold a convention on Independence Day. Nowhere in the world is it allowed. Not when the nation is celebrating its Independence Day. Never. No country would allow a political party to hold a convention, not even the ruling party, particularly when the president is hosting a foreign dignitary. It never happens. Tell me, madam, whether there is any person in this country who has ever seen the number of police officers, the battalions that were sent to Mulungushi International Conference Center to go and protect Miles Sampa. Has that ever happened to any opposition political party? Never. As a matter of fact, not even for the president himself. The police officers who were at Mulungushi outnumbered those who were at State House on that day. And are you sure that Raphael Musamba would have allowed battalions of police officers, trucks of police officers, those tankers, police tankers, going to protect an opposition political party on Independence Day? No. All those are fingerprints of Hakainde Hichilema. Tell me, madam, when you have ever heard that the police can lift fingerprints of even criminals in the middle of the night, and yet they lifted fingerprints of the so-called elected officials who were elected at that meeting at Mulungushi in the night. And the very next Monday, the Registrar of Societies was already being told to change the leadership, the official leadership, in the files at the Registrar of Societies office. And you think that could happen without Hagainde's approval? No. So Hagainde's fingerprints are everywhere. So what I'm saying is not an allegation, this is a proven fact. And I know that Hagainde and his zealots will not agree. But I don't expect them to agree. Have you ever seen a criminal just going volunteering and saying, yes, I committed a crime? No. They committed a crime and they'll continue to deny it. But the fingerprints are everywhere. The evidence is everywhere.
What is the interest? I still ask this question. What do you think is the interest of the UPND sponsoring confusion in your party?
Their fear is their interest. They have paranoia. They are paranoid. Just to think about PF, they develop goose pimples.
They lost to you as the Patriotic Front, that lost in 2021. It
is because the Zambian people then forgot the old adage, better the devil you know than the angel you don't. Hagainde postured like an angel. Hagainde walked this country and said, when I come, all of you Zambians will have 3 square meals a day. I have already gotten 20